Hello friends, welcome to my channel Nihira Techiees. Today I am starting a new series NGRX in Angular 15, and this is the introduction video. It provides some overview of NGRX and explains what is NGRX and what is the need of NGRX and also how to use NGRX in our Angular application. Okay, first let me provide some overview. So the NGRX is a framework for managing state in Angular application. Here the state is nothing but data, and also state management means transferring data between the components. Okay. So in this Angular application, we have several approaches for the state management. All are having some pros and cons, but the NGRX is the best one. Okay. So then you may have the question, is NGRX is the mandatory one for any Angular application? Definitely no. So basically, if your application is very small, it don't have any complex logics, the NGRX is not needed. So NGRX playing important role for the big application that is having some complex logics, and also it is having lot of data transfer between the components. So now you may have the questions, what are the other ways of state management available in this Angular application? For transferring data between the components, we can use the services and we can use the local storage and the session storage. Also, we can use this input and output decorator. So if you are using this input and output, we can transfer the data between one component to another components like a parent and child relationship only. And this local storage and session storage, we have to store the limited amount of data only. And if you are using services, the small application service is the better choice. But in the complex application, it's also too difficult because for every model, we may need to create the separate services. From in our component, we have to inject all the services. So that also difficult to manage. Okay. And the next thing is prerequisite for learning this NGRX. So before learning this NGRX, you should have the basic knowledge of Angular application. As you are a beginner, you don't have an Angular knowledge, so try to learn the concept of Angular, then come back to this NGRX. From our channel also we have one playlist and also the complete course in the single video. So anyway, I will share that video link also in the description. If really required, you have to watch it. Okay. So next, what is NGRX? So NGRX is a framework for building reactive applications in Angular. It is inspired from Redux pattern in React.js. So in this React.js, we have this Redux pattern. The same concept only we are applying in this NGRX. Okay. Now you may have the question. So do we need learn this Redux pattern before learning this NGRX? Definitely no. We can start from the NGRX. But the thing is, if you have the knowledge in Redux, then it is very easy to learn. Okay. And the advantages of having this NGRX, mainly it is used for organizing and handling the state management in our Angular application. So that already we have discussed. So now let me go to the official site of NGRX. Okay. So this is the official site ngrx.io. Just click this get started, and in this introduction, so if you noted here, we will get the same information. So NGRX is a framework for building reactive applications in Angular, and NGRX provide the library for below functionality. So the first one is managing global and local state and isolation of side effects to promote cleaner component architecture, entity collection management, integration with the Angular router, developer tools that enhance developer experience when building many different types of applications. So basically this NGRX provide on dev tools, so that actually we have to install in our browser itself. Okay. So since this NGRX is a client-side technology, the data stored in our client side only. For the debugging purpose, if you want to see the state information, that we can see using the dev tools. So using the dev tools, we can modify the state value also. Okay, that I will cover in the separate video. Now let me tell you why this NGRX is needed. So just to see this diagram, so consider this is one of the Angular application, okay? And these blocks are components only. So the first one is app component, okay? This is the main parent component. It is having two child component, one is A and B. Then this A component having two child component, that is C and D. So similarly C having E and F. So this is my structure. Okay. So currently I am having some data in this E component. Okay. So if I want transfer the data into our C component, so using this parent child concept, using the output decorator, I can transfer the data directly to our C component. So similarly, if I want to move to F, that also easy. So initially I have to move to our C component. From the C to F, we can transfer the data. But the thing is, just assume if you want transfer some data from the E component to I component. See, first we have to move to our C, then C to A, then A to app. So from the app component, we have to transfer to B, then H. Finally, it is moving to our I component. It is too difficult, okay? For avoiding this situation, we have the centralized store. So the store having all the component information, okay? So if you need some details, we can just subscribe. For example, I'm just modifying some data through this component. So the data will be reflected in our store automatically. So then I am just consumed or I subscribed the same data from our I component means if there is any data change in my store, obviously it will be reflected in my I components. So that is the overall concept. Okay. So now let me provide some details about this Redux pattern. So this diagram explains the complete structure of Redux pattern. So it is having five important parts. The first one is store, and the second one is actions, the third one is reducers, and the fourth one is selectors, and the final one is effects. Okay. So in this Redux pattern, the data flow will be happen always in the single directions only. So the concept is very simple. So this is our component. Okay. If there is any action is happened, it is dispatch the action method. So in this action, we have the action type and also it will execute the particular action. Once the action is completed, using this reducer, we can update our store. So store basically have all the state information. So once it is received the new data, it will modify the existing state information. So that means the old data will be changed into new data. Okay. And the next thing is selectors. So selectors, it is acting as like a just a subscriber. Okay. So this is one component. So similarly, I am having many components. Okay. So the all the components are consuming the same data. That means using this selector, so they are subscribing the same data. Okay. So now the data change happened through the one of the component. So obviously it is affected in our store. So then automatically the five components data also got reflected. So that is our end concept. And the final one is effects. So effects basically handling the side effects. So it is working on the HTTP services. So basically in this real-time application, we may consuming the web API. So that is the HTTP oriented services. Okay. So that time these effects are playing the very important role. Okay. So again, let me back to the official site. From here also, if you go to this getting started, so you will get some key concept ideas. So if you noted in these actions, so they are saying it is describing unique events that are dispatched from the components and services. So that's what I have said. So the action is dispatched from our components only. Okay. And the next one is reducer. The state changes are handled by fewer functions called reducers. So basically it is the function. So that takes the current state and the latest action to calculate the new state. Okay. So basically it is having the current state value, the current data, and based on the actions, it will calculate the new value that should be updated in our store. Okay. And the third one is selectors. The selectors are pure functions used to select, derive, and compose piece of state. Okay. So basically in our store have all state information. Okay. But in our components, we may need to use some of the states only. Okay. So using the selectors, we can select the particular state information and we can use in our components. That's what it's saying. And finally, and the state is accessed with the store and observable of state and the observer of actions. So that's what it is acting as just like observable. we can subscribe in our component itself. Okay. And the next thing is installation. So basically the installation and the configuration I will cover in the next video only. And the next one is diagram. So this diagram only already seen in our PPT also. So if you noted here, we have this component. So the component dispatch the actions to this reduces is updating our store. Finally, using these selectors, we can get the data from our selector. So in order to, we can display in our components. So additionally, for handling the external services like HTTP services, we are using this effects. Okay. Okay, great. Now we are in the end of the video. So in my next video, I am going to install the required packages and also we can start our implementation. Thank you. Thanks for watching.